Okay, so imagine this for a second. You're the lead engineer designing a huge new airliner, right? A transatlantic jet.
Right.
You've got the aerodynamics down perfect, the seats are amazing, the navigation is, state of the art. But you make one very specific, very strange design choice.
Uh-oh.
You give it exactly one engine.
Just one?
Just one. And if that single engine fails, doesn't matter why, bird strike, fuel clog, whatever, the laws of physics just take over. The plane stops flying. It starts falling.
Yeah, that's a terrifying thought for a pilot, but oddly enough, it describes exactly how most people design their financial lives.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're dissecting a really critical phase of the journey to financial independence. We're breaking down the source material for Step 12 of the Golden Path strategy.
This is the comprehensive strategy developed by Tamir Kaham. And for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, Tamir is the originator and architect of the 3-stage, 13-step strategy.
He's also the creator of the YouTube channel, The Golden Path to Financial Independence.
And the official Hebrew translator of that classic financial text, The Richest Man in Babylon.
And what I find so compelling, especially about this step 12, is how it really highlights that unique signature of the whole strategy.
It's a classic approach. You're getting this very distinct blend of modern systems engineering, which, comes from Tamir's background meeting ancient timeless wisdom about building wealth. It just transforms the whole idea of money from, say, stacking cash into building a fault-tolerant system.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So, to place us in the timeline, in our last deep dive, we talked about Step 11, that was asset orbit. You, the listener, acquired your very first income-producing asset. The rocket has lifted off.
Right. You have one asset paying you. You've proven the concept works. But today we're going to talk about why 1 is a very dangerous number. Today is all about Step 12, expanding and multiplying income sources.
And to really get the why, we have to go back to that airplane you were talking about.
Exactly. In engineering, we have a term for this. We call it a single point of failure, or SPOF.
Let's unpack that term. I mean, it sounds technical, but it's actually super intuitive.
A single point of failure is it's any single part of a system that, if it fails, the entire system just stops working.
No redundancy.
Zero. In data centers, for example, you have backup generators. In bridges, you have redundant supports. But in our personal financial lives, the salary is the ultimate single point of failure.
Because you have exactly one client.
One customer. That's it. You're a business with one customer. Your employer. And if that customer decides to stop buying what you're selling, or if the market forces them out of business, what happens?
Your revenue goes to zero instantly.
That is the very definition of a fragile system.
And I think this is where Step 12 gets really, really interesting. Because a lot of people, they finish Step 11, they buy a rental property maybe, or they set up a dividend portfolio, and they think, okay, I'm done. I have an asset. I'm safe now.
And that is a very dangerous illusion. Look, having one asset is infinitely better than zero, don't get me wrong. But if you have one rental property, you've really just traded a boss for a tenant. If that tenant leaves or, wrecks the place, or the city changes the zoning law, your system crashes just as hard as if you lost a job.
So you haven't actually removed the fragility.
No, you've just shifted the source of it. You've swapped one single point of failure for another. You haven't eliminated it.
So Step 12 isn't about just getting richer.
Not at all. It's an engineering challenge. It's about moving your financial life from fragile to resilient.
Using our running analogy, Step 11 was achieving orbit. You're not falling back to Earth every month.
Right.
But Step 12 is about expanding that orbit so you can survive a meteor strike.
Or just a system glitch. The whole goal is redundancy.
Okay, so before we get into the mechanics of how, the different asset classes and the tiers, I want to touch on the software update this requires. The source material draws a very sharp line between the psychology of an employee and that of an asset owner.
This is probably the hardest part. It's a genuine identity shift. We are conditioned, really from school onwards, to function as employees.
And the core psychological driver of an employee is
safety through dependence.
Safety through dependence. Wow, that's a heavy phrase.
It is. It means the employee is always looking outward for their security. They're asking questions like, how safe is my job? Or, is the industry stable? Is my boss happy? They are relying on some external entity to guarantee their survival.
Whereas the asset owner?
The asset owner is active. They're not asking if the job is safe. They're asking, how resilient is my system of cash flows?
And notice the plural there, flows.
Exactly. It reminds me of the difference between, say, balancing on a pogo stick versus building a table. the employees on a pogo stick. It might be a really high-tech, expensive one with a great salary, but the second they stop jumping, they fall.
But the asset owner's building a table. 4 legs, 6 legs, 10 legs.
And this is crucial legs that are standing on different floors. The definition of financial independence in the Golden Path strategy is very specific. It's when diversified cash flow covers your living expenses. The key word is diversified.
Right.
We need independent streams. The source material calls them rivers that do not rise and fall together.
That phrase, rivers that do not rise and fall together, that's the perfect way to talk about the biggest trap in step 12, the clustering mistake.
Oh, this happens all the time. It's the comfort zone trap. So let's say you had success with step 11. You bought a condo in your city, you rented it out, it's cash flowing, you feel smart, you feel confident. So for step 12, you decide to expand. What do?
You buy 3 more condos in the same building.
Exactly. And, on the surface, it feels efficient. You know the building, you know the neighborhood. But from a systems engineering perspective, that is a disaster.
Because it's not diversification.
It's concentration. Those 4 condos share the exact same risks. If the local economy tanks and people move away, all 4 of them could go vacant at the same time.
Right.
If the city hikes property taxes, your expenses on all 4 go up together. If a hurricane hits that one zip code, you get the point.
You haven't built 4 engines. You've built one giant, really heavy engine. And if it fails, the crash is just 4 times as loud.
Precisely. True diversification requires independence. It requires uncorrelated assets. So if your real estate is having a tough time, you need something else that might be booming, or at the very least, stable.
The Golden Path outlines 4 major buckets or categories of assets to look at for this. Let's walk through them because I think a lot of people just get stuck on stocks versus real estate.
Right, and it's so much broader. So bucket 1 is digital assets. This is really the modern frontier. We're talking about location-independent income.
Okay, so like online businesses, e-commerce.
E-commerce stores, YouTube channels, digital products, you name it.
And the big advantage there is scale.
Scale and decoupling from local geography. A digital asset doesn't care if the main factory in your town closes. It sells to a global market. The margins are often high and the physical overhead is low.
Okay, bucket 2.
Financial markets. The classics. Dividend-paying stocks, bonds, REITs, which are real estate investment trusts. This is usually the passive engine in the portfolio. It gives you liquidity and, historically, steady compounding.
And bucket 3?
Physical assets. This is real estate, yes, but separate from your own home. We mean rental properties in different markets, but also things like storage facilities, maybe equipment leasing, or a small business with a physical storefront. Tangible things.
And the 4th bucket, which I think is probably the most overlooked.
Definitely. Intellectual property. This is royalties, licensing, patents. If you write a book or code software that you license out or create music.
That seems powerful.
It's incredibly powerful because of the asymmetry of the effort. You do the work once, you write the book or the code one time, and the check can come in every time someone uses it, potentially for decades.
But the goal isn't to own all 4 of these things tomorrow. It's to understand that safety comes from spreading your bets across these completely different mechanics.
Exactly. If the stock market crashes, it usually doesn't stop your tenant from paying rent. If the housing market cools off, it doesn't stop people from buying your ebook. That is resilience.
Okay, I'm listening to this, and I can literally hear the listener's blood pressure rising. I have a job, I have a family, and now you're telling me I need to be a landlord, a stock trader, a YouTuber, and an author. I mean, it sounds completely exhausting.
No, absolutely not. Please do not do that. That is just a recipe for burnout and failure. You cannot build 4 businesses at once.
So what's the solution?
This is where the systems engineering approach really saves us. There is a very strict rule of scaling.
And the rule is?
Pacing. The rule is simple. Build 1 asset at a time. The recommendation is roughly 1 new asset per quarter, or maybe even per year, depending on how complex it is.
So just slow down.
You have to. When you acquire an asset, you're not just buying it. You have to learn the system, set up the management, stabilize the cash flow, troubleshoot all the little problems. Only when it's running smoothly on its own, when it's a stable system, do you even think about the next one.
Quality over quantity.
Always. A portfolio of 10 poorly managed, stress-inducing assets is so much worse than a job. It's a prison that you built for yourself.
Okay, so let's get into the architecture of this portfolio. We know what to buy and how fast to buy it, but how do we structure it? We don't just throw everything in a big pile. The source material outlines a tiered approach.
Yes. We structure the portfolio in 3 tiers to balance stability with growth. Think of it as a foundation, then the main structure, then the rocket fuel.
Okay, walk us through Tier 1.
Tier 1 is core stability. This is the bedrock. It should make up roughly, say, 40 to 50% of your total portfolio.
And what goes in here?
The boring stuff. Low volatility, predictable income. Think dividend aristocrats, those companies that have raised their dividends for 25 years straight.
Yeah.
Government bonds. Or maybe a rental property in a very established, stable neighborhood with a great long-term tenant.
So this tier isn't trying to make us rich overnight.
No, not at all. This tier's job is to make sure the lights never go out. It's the baseline. If everything else fails, Tier 1 keeps you fed.
Got it. Tier 2.
Tier 2 is growth income. This is about 30 to 40% of the portfolio. Here, we're willing to accept a little more volatility because we want to beat inflation and actually grow our capital base.
What are some examples?
This is where you might put REITs, broad market index funds, maybe real estate in a more up-and-coming neighborhood where there's potential for appreciation, not just rent. You're taking on moderate risk for moderate growth.
And finally, Tier 3. This one sounds like the fun part, but maybe the dangerous part too.
Tier 3 is high yield or higher risk, but notice the allocation here, only 10 to 20%. This is the rocket fuel.
This is where you put your digital business.
Exactly, or a speculative startup investment, or crypto if that's your thing. It's the high risk, high reward stuff.
So the math here is asymmetric.
Totally. If your digital business takes off, it could 10x your money. But if it fails...
It's only 10% of your portfolio.
Exactly. The core in Tier 1 and the growth in Tier 2 ensure that a total failure in Tier 3 is just a scratch on the paint. It's not a hole in the hull. You can afford to take those big swings because your foundation is so solid.
This leads to a concept that I think is the real philosophical peak of this whole step. We started by talking about single point of failure, that's being fragile.
Right.
Then we talked about diversification, that's being resilient.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a third state the golden path is aiming for.
Anti-fragile. It's a concept that was popularized by Nassim Taleb.
So how does that apply to my wallet?
Well, think about it. A fragile system breaks under stress like a salary. Our resilient system survives stress like a diversified portfolio. But an anti-fragile system actually gets stronger because of stress.
That seems counterintuitive. How does the portfolio get stronger when the market is crashing?
Okay, so if you followed step 12 correctly, you have stable cash flows coming in from your independent sources, especially Tier 1, and you probably have liquidity, cash on hand. When the market crashes or real estate prices fall off a cliff, what is the average employee doing?
Panicking.
Yeah.
Selling everything. Just trying to survive.
Exactly. But the asset owner, they see a sale. Chaos creates opportunity for you because you have the resources to buy quality assets at a huge discount. You don't just survive the storm, you use the storm's energy to upgrade your ship.
That is a massive shift in how you live your life. You stop reading the news with anxiety and you start reading it with curiosity.
You stop managing your survival. You start managing your legacy, the portfolio itself, because the asset, the individual house, the individual stock, they're just replaceable parts. The system is what matters.
I love that. The portfolio is the asset. It's a machine you've built that just happens to contain houses and stocks.
And that machine buys you the ultimate luxury, which is the ability to say no. When your system covers your expenses, you work because you want to, not because you have to.
All right, we've covered the theory, the psychology, the structure, but this is the deep dive, so we need to make this actionable. We have a weekly challenge for everyone listening.
We do. Step 12 is a huge undertaking, but it all starts with analysis. So we have 3 specific tasks for you this week to get your head in the game.
Task 1.
Inventory. Sit down with a pen and paper or a spreadsheet and list every single stream of money coming into your life right now.
And for a lot of people listening, that might just be one line item. Job.
And that is perfectly okay. The point is radical honesty. Write it down. If you get interest from a savings account, write that down. If you sell stuff on eBay occasionally, write it down. Map your current terrain.
Okay, task 2. This sounds like the painful one.
This is the SPOF analysis. Look at that list and ask the really hard question. What single event would completely destroy this income?
And you have to be brutal with yourself here. What if my boss fires me? What if that platform I sell on changes its algorithm?
What if my biggest client goes bankrupt? You have to identify the weakness, that fear you feel when you ask that question. That is your roadmap. It tells you exactly what you need to build next.
And task 3.
Target selection. Based on your SPOF analysis, choose one new asset class that directly addresses that weakness.
So if all your income is from a tech job, maybe don't immediately go buy more tech stocks.
Exactly. If you're heavy in real estate, maybe you should look at the financial markets. If you're heavy in stocks, look at digital or a physical business. Find the counterbalance.
And then just go buy it immediately.
No. Remember the pacing rule.
What?
Set a timeline. Give yourself 3 to 6 months just to research and plan that one acquisition. Do not rush. The goal is to build a high-quality component, not just to spend money.
That's great advice. It stops that impulse to just do something and puts you back in the engineer's seat.
Before we wrap this up, there's something very important we need to address. We're talking about money, investments, systems engineering.
Right.
At this point, it's important to pause and clarify something essential.
This episode is not financial advice. It presents a structured thinking framework only. There are no guarantees. Responsibility for decisions remains entirely with the listener.
There are no guarantees of results. The fact that this strategy worked for Tamir Kaham does not mean it will work for you. Your circumstances, goals, personality, risk tolerance, and market conditions differ.
You must evaluate independently and consult qualified professionals, advisors, accountants, lawyers before making any significant financial or investment decisions. Responsibility remains entirely with you.
Thank you. It's so vital to remember that we are discussing a map, but you are the one driving the car on your own road.
The map is not the territory.
Exactly.
So let's summarize. We started with a rocket in orbit. That was step 11, one asset. We identified that while that's a huge achievement, it's fragile. It's a single point of failure.
And step 12 is all about building the fleet. It's about careful, paced diversification across completely different asset classes, digital, financial, physical, IP, and organizing them into tiers of stability and growth.
We're moving from the anxiety, the employee mindset, to the resilience of the asset owner mindset.
And ultimately, we are aiming for anti-fragility, where the chaos of the world doesn't threaten you, but actually offers you opportunities.
You are no longer managing your survival. You are managing your legacy. That's the thought I'm taking with me from today's deep dives.
It's a powerful place to be. You've built multiple income streams. You've diversified your cash flow. In our next deep dive, we move to step 13, achieving financial independence.
The final step.
We'll cover how to know when you've actually crossed the threshold, how to make that transition from dependence to freedom, and what life looks like when your assets cover your lifestyle and you work by choice, not by necessity.
Step 13, the finish line of the entire strategy. You really do not want to miss that one. Make sure you're subscribed to the series.
And if you want to see the visuals, the charts of the tiers, and more deep dives, join the YouTube channel, The Golden Path to Financial Independence.
That is at youtube.com/@, capital TAMIR, capital GOLD, capital PATH.
At Tamir Gold Path. Or you can just search YouTube for The Golden Path to Financial Independence.
We will see you in our next deep dive for the final step, crossing the threshold.
The mission continues.